So we can move on to item 5, unfinished business. Discuss and or approve the instructional support program.
Well, I think John and I will both talk through this one. And we always do the agenda discussion and or approval. We're not asking for approval of anything. This is a discussion item. This is how we envision it. And what we had said was, did you get one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I guess I need one. What we had said before with specifically the instructional support levy, and we had the discussion last month, and what we would really like to do is ask board members to keep an open mind as we look, as there's more official data in arriving at a decision on the instructional support levy, and just keeping an open mind. And so what we've done in the little 2-page document, there's actually 3 pages, one will look real familiar, is break down some information into some categories that made sense to John and myself. What do we know? And then, and that's factual data. What do we anticipate is on the 2nd page, and then some things about some upcoming needs, and then offering some possibilities in how to address these things. I think and John, you jump in anywhere that you want, but I think this would be a good forum to talk about some of the information and make sure that it makes sense. What we really need to do, there's some real unknowns in the area of school finance, from allowable growth to what the state's going to do, adding in enrollment projections, all of those things. And then in our situation, we have some consolidation sharing money for the next 3 years. We have to think beyond those 3 years as a board and make plans for what the long term of the district. And so we just want to provide as much information as a springboard for discussion. That's the purpose of what we put together. John, you want to add anything to Rambling?
I think that first bullet just is facts about what's currently in place. The second bullet about IFRS would just indicate, due to that law change, what, based on this year's salary, that would cost us about $47,000. The third bullet, when we had talked about this during the reorganization talks, and there was some talk about using that as a kind of a promotion or promote that idea. I thought that dollar in tax would get put back on the other end, and I've been informed that that's not true. That dollar will be made up for with state aid. So
it's true property tax.
When we talked about that 9 months ago or whatever, I spoke incorrectly. I was wrong. So that's a good thing for our taxpayers. Then that next bullet just kind of tries to project next year's tax rates if things remain the same. And you can see they're relatively low, 1063 and 1024. Of course, those will get meshed into one. And we haven't seen the valuations. Those are just guesses. There's a lot of things that are going to come into that yet.
But just using the data that we have, that we know is accurate for this year,
right.
Those numbers are, it's a concept, I guess, of looking. You may want to just bop over to the 3rd page, which is the same spreadsheet that I gave to you a couple of months ago, that John and I put together, of contiguous districts to East Sac, and where our rate in our school property tax rate falls. In the first column, I should have labeled it, I guess, sorry. That's the same information that you got before. And what we did this time in the 2nd column and then highlighted SAC and WLBA is put, again, based on what we know for fact today, where we would fall. And what you'll see with the tax rate is that there's some room there. I guess that's the point. And just thought that's, again, interesting data to look at.
And another thing that's not on it that I know Brent and I have talked about a lot is our unspent balance and our cash balance. And they are both well within the target range. the school district. The last hard data that the state has sent out for unspent balance is June 30th of 09. Our combined unspent balance was $1.8 million. And we had at least that much cash to back it up. So don't think we're in a bad spot, and that's why we're asking to just keep considering this. We're in a good spot. And I would say that 1.8 million is right in that target range of 15 or 20% that they talk about. So.
And the other measure that people talk about within school finance is to have enough cash really available to pay the bills. If you didn't have another dollar coming in, do you have enough cash to pay the bills for a minimum of 3 months? And for us, that works out between the two districts about $1.5 million, something like that.
Yeah.
Give or take. And again, that's just something that you shoot for. That's a measure of fiscal health, and that's what we're after. Not just now, but where are we going to be 3, 4, 5 years down the line? That's what we have to continually focus on.
My question would be, when you consider the two columns, in every case, in the left-hand column, we're certainly not out of line, we're not the highest. When you move then to the right-hand column, we're going to be considerably lower. And I wonder if that's a good thing. I've never thought that having the lowest tax rate in the state was a smart thing. I don't think that speaks well for your intention to support your education program.
Yep. Well, and just make sure you notice too in that right column, I just drug all of the figures for contiguous districts from this year. I have no idea what they're going to do with their tax rate. But again, if comparing apples to apples, if nothing changed, that's what our tax rate would be. And so part of what we want to present for you to think about is pretty transparent, that we may be in a situation to where we can consider the instructional support levy and still have property tax rates decrease over what the current levels are. And we'll continue to add more detail after the first of the year, because the Department of Management by February 1st will have all of their work done. We'll be dealing with specifics about what next year looks like. Right now we're using data that's available, the other stuff isn't. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just got the reply from the Department of Management, and that we will not have it prior to our January meeting.
And then I guess the last thing I draw attention to would be on page 2 with the possibilities. And these were just John and I brainstorming, and there's really no new information there for you. It's kind of a recap. Do nothing to maintain or increase revenue for operating fund expenses. At that point, what you're looking at is you have to look at either cutting your expenditures or dipping into your cash reserves. Again, that's where the information is. Our cash reserves for fiscal health are about right where they ought to be. That's what the folks are telling us. Second is talking about the instructional support levy, and it goes through the different options there again. And I would draw attention that we always use the term maximum. You don't have to go the maximum. It can be shorter time period. It can be, doesn't have to be the maximum allowed, the 10% of the district's regular program district cost. You have options to piece this thing together. And I can't stress that enough. And then the other thing, of course, is dealing with the cash reserve levy, which is another piece of this puzzle. In any case, our intent is to give you good information to think about process, because we're going to want to come back in January and revisit this after you've had a chance to digest it. If that makes sense. Any other questions?
So are we going to get some more information then in January?
We're going to try. I put out an email to the Department of Management asking if we could get some unspent balance projections prior to our January meeting, and our budget worksheet, since we're putting two budgets together, and I just got told no. It's going to be closer to the end of January.
So we may not have anything for January.
May not be
but
much
probably
new in
for-
January. Right.
When does the decision have to be made on this?
It depends how you, for the instructional support, it depends on if you approach it with voter approval or if you board approved. If you were to do a board approved levy, I think you need, what is it, we figure 30 days and
We
then
just need to have a public hearing.
a public hearing, and then there's a waiting period before it's actually
April
instituted.
15th deadline.
We'll get you that information, that's factual. Right now, we've given you what we can that is straightforward. Yep.
Personally, I don't think a board approved is a good way to go. Well, I think voter is the way to do it.
Well, if that's, those deadlines we do know, if that's a voter approved, the board would have to pass the resolution by December 17th for a February 1st election. That horse has left the barn, for sure. And then there's one more, I believe it's April 1st, something like that, which is about the same time that we're certifying budgets. So there's some timelines, but we'll provide more information about what those options are. The other thing I guess I would plant the seed, and we probably already have, is that the board may want to consider looking at a short term with instructional support. Maybe consider doing a board approved. I mean, you have to figure this out, but maybe a board approved for 1 year while we educate everyone about how this all works and how we're doing it and what we're doing, and then come back and take it for the long term to the people. I mean, you can do any combination of things within this, what
Because
we're
if it,
saying.
but if it does not pass voter, can the board still implement it? So, I mean,
There's a time period, and I forget
There's
what
a
it
waiting
is.
period, then you can try board approved and see.
And the board approved too, just so you know, it has that waiting period because there's a petition process from constituents that if they bring that forward, then it has to go, you either have to rescind the motion as a board or it has to go to board approval. So it's not that you're jamming it down necessarily constituents' throat. There is feedback in that process. We have to do a better job of explaining the process. We will. That'll be January.
I see that SAC does have a voter-approved couple, but did not exercise it this year.
Last 2 years, actually.
Last 2 years. I
Yeah.
didn't realize that you had that. So it isn't something that they're, the voters said yes at that time anyway.
Is that a 10-year deal, Frank?
It wasn't.
It was 10.
And that's up on June
It
30th.
runs out June 30th,
Everything
right?
comes out then.
Yep. Okay, got something, stuff enough to contemplate here? All right, we'll continue to provide as much good material as possible.